What if I told you that the mental strength you were searching for is not found by eliminating pain, but by mastering your relationship with it? We live in an age that sells you a fantasy, a life without friction, without anxiety, without difficulty. It's a lie. That life doesn't exist, and in chasing it, you have become fragile, reactive, a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the slightest change in the wind. The market dips, a colleague makes a careless comment, your plans go awry and your inner peace shatters. You believe your turmoil is caused by these external events. This is the foundational error that keeps you trapped. For 30 years, I built a life on that error. I was a successful tech entrepreneur, a master of strategy and competition. I had the wealth, the accolades, the entire checklist of modern success. But my inner world was a war zone. I was fueled by anxiety, prone to explosive anger, and haunted by a hollow feeling that none of it mattered. My success was a fortress built on sand. Then came the crucible moment, a burnout so severe it fractured my health and cost me a business partnership I'd spent a decade building. Stripped of everything, I was forced to confront the chaos I'd ignored. I didn't turn to fleeting motivation. I turned to the engineers of the human soul, the Stoics. This is what I learned, and this is what I am offering you. Not a list of things to think, but a new way how to think. A 30-day challenge. Not a quick fix, but the laying of a foundation for an unbreakable mind. A new operating system. The first 7 days are the most crucial, and they require you to do nothing. Nothing, that is, except observe. The first principle, straight from Epictetus, is the dichotomy of control. There are things you can control, your thoughts, your judgments, your actions, and things you cannot, everything else. Your entire life's suffering comes from confusing the two. So, for this first week, your only task is to become a scientist of your own mind. You will carry a small notebook or use a notes app, and you will become a dispassionate observer of your own reactions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, don't just feel the anger. Observe it. Write it down. Event. Cut off in traffic. Automatic thought. That person is a disrespectful idiot. Physical sensation. Heat in my chest. Hands gripping the wheel. Judgment. My morning is ruined. Do not judge the judgment. Do not try to stop the feeling. Simply observe and record. You are gathering intelligence on your own reactive patterns. You cannot defeat an enemy you do not understand, and your greatest enemy is your own untrained mind. I remember when I first started this practice. I was appalled. I saw myself as a logical, strategic CEO, but my journal revealed a man who was emotionally hijacked by the most trivial things: a slow internet connection, a negative news headline, the tone of an email. The data was undeniable. I was not in control. That humbling realization was the first step toward true freedom. It can be for you, too. So, here is the question you must live with this week. Are you willing to stop blaming the world for your inner state and finally take a hard, honest look at the source of the disturbance, your own unexamined judgments? In our first week, you began the practice of the scientist, observing your mind's reactions without judgment. Now, we deepen that practice. You are not just a scientist, you are the architect of an inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, and perhaps the most powerful man in the world, spent his evenings not in indulgence, but in quiet reflection, writing to himself. He was fortifying his mind against the chaos of the empire and the frailty of his own humanity. He understood a profound truth. You are not your emotions. You experience emotions. There is a space between the trigger and the response, and in that space lies your power. Your work this week is to widen that space. Let's take a practical, real-world example from the world I know best. Business. A key client sends a sharply critical email. The project is at risk. The untrained mind collapses that space between trigger and response instantly. The email arrives and immediately becomes panic, anger, or defensiveness. You fire back a defensive reply, call your team, and project your anxiety onto them, or sit there stewing in a cortisol bath that ruins your productivity for the rest of the day. The trained mind, the mind you are building, operates differently. The email arrives. The architect inside you observes the first wave of emotion. Ah, there is a feeling of panic. My chest is tight. My mind is racing with catastrophic scenarios. You name it, you observe it, as if watching a storm from behind the thick walls of your citadel. You do not become the storm. Then you deliberately engage your logic. What are the facts here? The client is unhappy with Section 3. They have pointed out two specific issues. My panic is not about the facts, it is my judgment about the facts. The story I'm telling myself about losing the contract, about being a failure. By separating fact from fiction, you widen that space. In that space, you can then choose a deliberate, strategic response. A response born of reason, not reaction. A response that solves the problem instead of amplifying the drama. This is the Stoic principle in action. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That critical email is not an obstacle to your peace, it is the very training ground for it. Every irritation, every setback, every frustration this week is your sparring partner. It is an opportunity to practice widening the gap. When your child spills milk, when a flight is delayed, when technology fails, these are your moments of training, your reps. This is how the iron of the mind is forged. So, I ask you to reflect on this. What is the one recurring event in your life, big or small, that you consistently grant the power to disturb your peace? What would happen if, for the next 7 days, every time it occurred, you paused, took one deep breath, and simply said to yourself, I see the trigger. I feel the emotion. Now I will choose my response. You have spent a week observing your reactions and another learning to create space between stimulus and response. You are no longer a passive victim of your emotions. Now, we move from the defensive posture of observation to a proactive strategy. You will become a warrior, and a warrior's primary tool is preparation. We will now integrate one of the most powerful and misunderstood Stoic practices, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Modern culture, obsessed with positive thinking, will tell you this is negative, morbid. They are wrong. This is not pessimism, it is strategic immunization against the shocks of life. The man who only visualizes success is brittle. He is a glass cannon. The first encounter with reality, a lost deal, a rejection, an unexpected bill, shatters him. The man who has calmly, logically, and strategically contemplated failure is durable. He is made of iron. He has already visited the worst-case scenario in his mind and has prepared for it, both practically and emotionally. When adversity strikes, it is not a terrifying stranger, it is an opponent he has already studied. I remember a young mentee of mine, a brilliant founder about to give the most important investor pitch of her life. She was paralyzed by anxiety. She was trying to follow the popular advice. Just visualize success. But it felt hollow. Her mind kept betraying her with images of failure. I told her to do the opposite. For 1 hour, we sat and mapped out every possible disaster. The projector failing, her co-founder getting sick, the lead investor asking a brutal, unanswerable question, her forgetting her entire speech. We went through each one, and for each, we asked 2 things. 1, what can we do to prevent this? And 2, if it happens anyway, how will we respond? We created contingency plans. We rehearsed her response to the harshest criticism. We accepted the possibility of total failure. She walked into that pitch transformed. The fear was gone. Why? Because the unknown had been made known. She had already faced the dragon in her mind. By imagining the worst, she had stripped it of its power to terrorize her. She was free to simply perform at her best. She secured the funding. This is your task for days 8 through 14. Each morning, you will spend 5 minutes in a quiet space. You will not think about what you hope will happen. You will think about what could go wrong. Your car might not start. A major project might get a negative review. You might have a difficult conversation with a loved one. Do not do this to create anxiety. You do this to achieve the opposite. For each possibility, you will tell yourself, if this happens, I have the tools to handle it. I will rely on my reason, my courage, my temperance. Then you will feel a wave of gratitude for the present moment, where none of these things have yet happened. You appreciate your working car, your stable job, your peaceful relationships all the more because you have acknowledged their impermanence. You are building resilience and gratitude in a single, powerful exercise. So, reflect on this question. Are you living in a fragile bubble of positive thinking, leaving you exposed to the inevitable hardships of life? Or are you willing to become an anti-fragile strategist, training for difficulty so that you may meet it with calm and resolve? Last week, you began the practice of strategic foresight, contemplating potential challenges to build resilience. Now, we must ensure our actions are not just resilient, but also directed toward a worthy end. Stoicism is not merely about endurance. A mountain endures, but it does not act. You are a human being, and your purpose is to act with virtue. This is not virtue in a stuffy, moralistic sense. For the Stoics, virtue was the expression of human excellence. It is the North Star that guides every choice. The four cardinal virtues are wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. For days 15 through 21, every action you take will be viewed through this lens. This is the original insight, the synthesis that transforms these practices from mere life hacks into a coherent philosophy for living. Observation tells you what is happening. Premeditation prepares you for what could happen, but virtue dictates how you must respond. Without this compass, resilience is just stubbornness. With it, every moment becomes an opportunity to express your highest self. Let's apply this to a mundane, universal experience, the daily commute. For most, it is a source of stress, a wasted hour of life filled with traffic, delays, and frustration. The untrained mind sees it as an obstacle to be endured. The mind training in virtue sees it as a gymnasium for the soul. Stuck in traffic? You have a choice. You can react with anger, which is a failure of temperance. You can blame other drivers, a failure of justice. Or you can choose a virtuous response. You can practice courage by calmly accepting the situation you cannot change. You can practice wisdom by using the time to listen to an educational podcast or an audiobook, transforming dead time into growth. You can practice temperance by managing your frustration and choosing a calm internal state. The traffic is the same, the external reality is identical, but the internal experience, the quality of your character in that moment, is radically different. You have transformed a moment of vice into a moment of virtue. This is the core teaching of Epictetus. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The traffic is not bad, it is simply traffic. Your judgment, "This is terrible, this is ruining my day," is what creates the suffering. This week, your task is to actively choose virtuous judgments. When a colleague challenges your idea, you can judge it as an attack and respond with defensiveness. Or you can judge it as an opportunity to strengthen the idea through rigor and respond with curiosity. When you feel the pull of procrastination or indulgence, you can see it as a moment to practice temperance, the strength to act in your own long-term best interest. Every situation becomes a choice. Will I act from my lower, reactive nature or my higher, virtuous one? I ask you to look at the most frustrating or mundane part of your daily routine. Is it doing the dishes, answering emails, dealing with a difficult customer? How could you reframe that specific activity, not as a chore to be rushed through, but as a dedicated opportunity to deliberately practice one of the four virtues? Who would you be if your entire day became a field for honorable action? You have observed, you have prepared, and you have oriented your actions toward virtue. Now, we enter the crucible. Theory is easy application under pressure is what forges character. For this third week, days 22 through 28, you will deliberately and safely introduce voluntary hardship into your life. Why? Because the modern world has made us soft. We are addicted to comfort. We live in perfectly climate-controlled boxes, have food delivered at the push of a button, and seek entertainment to numb the slightest hint of boredom. This addiction to comfort is the source of our fragility. When an inevitable discomfort arises, a physical illness, a financial setback, a personal loss, we are utterly unprepared to handle it. We break. Voluntary hardship is the vaccine. By exposing yourself to small, controlled doses of discomfort, You build an immunity to the uncontrolled hardships that life will inevitably send your way. You are not punishing yourself, you are training yourself. You are teaching your body and mind the critical lesson: I can withstand this. I am more resilient than my desire for comfort tells me I am. My own life was a testament to the slavery of comfort. I had the best of everything: the finest suits, the most luxurious hotels, the gourmet meals. But I was terrified of losing it. My comfort was my cage. When I began my Stoic practice, I started small. 1 day a week, I would sleep on the floor. It was not comfortable, but I woke up alive. I started taking cold showers. The first 30 seconds are pure shock, a screaming internal monologue of resistance. But then a calm clarity follows. It's a physical lesson in facing a challenge and coming out stronger on the other side. I began to practice intermittent fasting, learning the difference between I am hungry and I am going to die. These were not acts of masochism. They were acts of liberation. I recall a crucial business trip to Asia. After a 14-hour flight, I arrived to find the 5-star hotel had lost my reservation. The only available room was in a dingy, loud motel nearby. The old me would have been enraged. My entire trip, my performance, would have been soured by this perceived injustice, this insult to my status. But the new me? The one who had voluntarily slept on the floor? I looked at the lumpy bed and the noisy street outside, and I thought, I can handle this. This is easy. The event had no power over me. My training had worked. I had a productive trip because my inner peace was no longer dependent on external comfort. This is your practice for the next 7 days. Choose one small voluntary hardship each day. It must be safe, but uncomfortable. Take a 30-second cold shower at the end of your normal shower. Skip your morning coffee and endure the dull headache. Eat a very simple, bland meal for lunch. Park your car at the farthest spot in the parking lot and walk. When you feel the urge to check your phone for a dopamine hit, deliberately wait 10 minutes. Each time you do this, you are casting a vote for your own strength. You are proving to yourself that your well-being is not contingent on perfect conditions. You are loosening the chains of comfort. So ask yourself this: what comfort have you become so dependent on that its absence would cause you genuine distress? Are you its master, or is it yours? By practicing voluntary hardship, you have begun to sever the link between your well-being and your external circumstances. You are learning that you can not only survive discomfort, but thrive within it. Now, we must elevate this practice into a guiding philosophy. This requires understanding the Stoic concept of indifference. The Stoics classified everything external, wealth, health, reputation, pain, sickness, poverty, as indifferent. This doesn't mean you don't care about them. It means they have no bearing on your moral worth or your ability to live a virtuous life. Within this category, they made a brilliant distinction: preferred and dispreferred indifference. Of course, you prefer health to sickness, wealth to poverty, and a good reputation to a bad one. It is rational to pursue these things. The mistake, the source of all human misery, is believing that attaining the preferred indifference is good, or that suffering the dispreferred is bad. The only true good is virtue. The only true bad is vice. Your character is the only thing that is truly yours. Everything else is on loan from fortune, and she can reclaim it at any time without warning. Let's ground this in a common, painful life experience: being passed over for a promotion you felt you deserved. The untrained mind immediately labels this as bad. It's a catastrophe. Your judgment connects the event directly to your self-worth. I failed. I'm not good enough. My career is stalled. This judgment is the poison. It paralyzes you with resentment and self-pity. The trained mind, the mind of the architect, processes it differently. You acknowledge the dispreferred outcome. It is perfectly natural to feel disappointment. That is a preferred indifferent that you did not receive. But you do not label the event itself as bad. You recognize that the promotion is external. It does not touch your inner citadel. Your character, your work ethic, your ability to act with justice and wisdom, these remain untouched. The real work is not to get angry at your boss, but to ask yourself, how can I respond to this setback virtuously? Can I use this as an opportunity to demonstrate courage by continuing to do excellent work? Can I use it to practice temperance by managing my disappointment? Can I use it to practice justice by congratulating my colleague sincerely? The event becomes another training session in the gymnasium of life. The letters of Seneca to his friend Lucilius are a masterclass on this topic. He constantly reminds him that fortune is a fickle mistress. She gives, and she takes away. Anchor yourself not to her gifts, but to the one thing she cannot touch, your own rational, virtuous mind. When you fully internalize this, you become invincible. If you get the promotion, you accept it with gratitude but without attachment. If you don't, you accept it with equanimity and use it as a chance to build character. You win either way. This brings us to a powerful and perhaps difficult reflective question. Think of something you desperately want right now, a career goal, a financial target, a relationship. Now, ask yourself with brutal honesty, if you never, ever achieved it, could you still live a life of purpose, meaning, and virtue? If the answer is no, you have found an external master you are serving. You have learned to observe your mind, to prepare for adversity, to act with virtue, and to untangle your worth from external outcomes. In this final phase of our 30-day challenge, we zoom out. We add the ultimate tool for dissolving trivial anxieties and aligning our actions with a greater purpose. Platonis kataskopos, or the view from above. This is a meditative practice used by Marcus Aurelius to gain perspective. When the pressures of the empire, the betrayals of his court, and the pains of his own frail body became too much, he would mentally ascend. He would look down upon himself, his city, his continent, the entire spinning globe, and see his problems shrink into cosmic insignificance. This is not an exercise in nihilism, making you feel that nothing matters. It is an exercise in perspective, making you see what truly matters. The daily dramas, the petty squabbles, the anxieties about status and reputation that consume so much of our mental energy, they wither and die under the vast, silent gaze of the cosmos. What remains is the present moment and the quality of your character within it. I had a moment years ago where this practice saved a multi-million-dollar negotiation. We were at a stalemate. Tempers were flaring. My own ego was deeply involved. I wanted to win, to prove I was smarter. I felt the telltale signs of reactive anger, the heat in my chest, the narrowing of my vision. I excused myself, walked to a window, and looked out at the city below. I didn't just see buildings. I imagined the millions of people in them, each with their own dramas, hopes, and fears. I zoomed out further, seeing the continent, then the planet, a tiny, fragile marble floating in an impossible blackness. I saw the sweep of geologic time, the rise and fall of empires, the certainty that in 1,000 years, none of this, not me, not the other party, not this deal, would even be a footnote in history. I returned to the table a different man. The anger was gone. The ego was gone. All that was left was a calm, clear focus on the objective. I was no longer trying to win, I was trying to solve a problem. My shift in demeanor changed the energy in the room, and we found a creative solution within the hour. The view from above didn't make the problem disappear, it removed the emotional poison that was preventing a solution. This is your practice for the final days of the challenge, days 29 and 30 and beyond. Whenever you feel overwhelmed by stress, anxiety, or anger, perform this visualization. 1. Close your eyes. 2. See yourself in the room you are in. 3. Zoom out. See the building, the street, the neighborhood. 4. Keep zooming out. See your city, your state, your country as a patch on the globe. 5. See the earth itself, a silent, swirling sphere of blue and white. 6. Finally, see it hanging in the vast, star-dusted emptiness of space. 7. Hold that image, and from that immense perspective, look back at the problem that was consuming you just moments before. See it for what it is, a tiny ripple on a vast ocean. Important in the moment, perhaps, but not the entirety of your existence. This practice gives you the one thing that reactive emotion steals from you, perspective. And with perspective comes peace. So I ask you, how would the problem you are most worried about right now look from 10 years in the future? From the perspective of human history? From the quiet vantage point of space? We have reached the end of our 30 days, but this is not a finish line. It is the beginning of a new way of life. You have laid the foundation. You have been given the blueprints. Now, you must continue the work of the architect, the daily practice of building and fortifying your inner citadel. What you have learned is not a set of disconnected tricks. It is a unified operating system. The observation of your thoughts allows you to choose a virtuous response. The preparation for hardship gives you the strength to maintain that virtue under pressure. And the view from above ensures your virtuous actions are aimed at what truly matters. This is the synthesis I spoke of. It is the path of the Prokopton, the Greek term for one who is making progress. The goal is not a final destination called perfection. The goal is the daily, conscious effort to be a little wiser, a little more just, a little more courageous, and a little more temperate than you were the day before. Your life is the project. But this journey should not be walked alone. The Stoics had their schools, their communities of fellow practitioners who shared their struggles and insights. We must do the same. This is my call to you. Do not let this work remain a private exercise. Share what you have learned. Discuss these principles with friends, family, or colleagues. Find one other person who is willing to undertake this training with you. Hold each other accountable. In the comments below, share one insight you gained over the last 30 days. Use the hashtag #IronMindChallenge on social media to connect with others who are on this path. The strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the practitioner is the community. Finally, I leave you with the ultimate Stoic principle, the one that animates all the others, memento mori. Remember, you will die. This is not a morbid thought designed to depress you. It is the ultimate tool for clarity and urgency. You have a finite number of days, a finite number of breaths. Will you spend them enslaved to trivial anxieties, petty grievances, and the opinions of others? Or will you use each one to build your character, to contribute to the world, to live with purpose and meaning? Knowing that the clock is ticking strips away the non-essential. It forces you to ask the most important question of all. Am I living the life I will be proud of at its end? This 30-day challenge was designed to give you the tools to answer yes. You now have a blueprint for an inner citadel that no external force, not market crashes, not betrayals, not sickness, not even death itself, can breach. Your inner world is the only one you truly command. Build it well.